All right, let's go ahead and
Excellent.
Pre-show cheers.
Pre-show.
Let's do it. Cheers to you, and cheers to you. Back to good old monkey shoulder.
Solid, consistent. I love it.
We plowed through that Highland Park 12, that $80 bottle in like 3
We
weeks.
smoked that one.
2 weeks. Hello, Internet. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Let's recap the Utah Jazz trade with John Collins and what the roster looks like moving forward.
Readdressing the new NBA, CBA, and how it's affecting teams that most people aren't talking about.
MLB commissioner regrets a major decision.
All that and more. My name is Darren, that is AJ, and this is the DNA Sports Recap.
Roll the intro.
How's it going, AJ?
Doing good, man. Been a busy week with sports business, that's for sure.
Yeah. We had our one of our, actually it's becoming more common and not where we hop on to address something really quick that happens in the news. Let's go ahead and just recap that real quick. Let's go ahead and talk about the trade. If you go ahead and break it down for them, what the trade actually was.
Yeah. So just to recap, it was between the Jazz and the Hawks. The Hawks send John Collins to Utah in exchange for Rudy Gay and a second-round pick.
I was trying to keep an ear on the local post, like the pulse of the local media, sports media, and how everybody's taking it. And I was listening to ESPN 700, the Spence Check It's the Drive. It's an AM sports radio show here in the afternoons, but it's also available as a podcast, so please go check that out. They're talking about that at the trade deadline last year, the Sacramento Kings offered Atlanta 3 first-round picks and Harrison Barnes for John Collins.
That is absolute craziness.
In less than 8 months' time, like the value of that the value of a player, probably the value of the player, but also the CBA is kind of thrown in there and really kind of made.
Yeah, I would think the CBA has got more to do with that, and trying to dump salary off and avoid some of these second aprons of the CBA. Mm-hmm. I don't know if John Collins has lost that much value over the last 8 months. That would be, really Utah has, I think, the steal of this trade season so far. I don't know if we see player valued at that high with that high of a ceiling move for quite what the Jazz stole him for at the current rate.
So the fact that he has been on a steady decline year over year since 2020. Which is something we covered on that video, so be sure to check it out. That is a big concern for a lot of people in the local market. You brought it up on our last episode there, that is a concern.
Yeah, realistically, he's just, his stats have kind of fallen. We actually had a really good comment about a guy that had mentioned that he had an injury to one of his fingers, and that was kind of, since that injury, his numbers have kind of declined since then. So, that might be something to watch out for. If that's really the reason that his shooting production went down, that might not be something that's as easily fixed as just some coaching stuff like I mentioned in the last video. I do think he's going to have a lot better opportunities to shoot from space and, be created for with some of the ball players that we have on the Jazz team right now. If you've got a nagging injury that you're kind of fighting all the time, that could be something we definitely want to keep an eye on.
One of the things that people aren't paying attention, though, is to why the Jazz really need to make this trade. Obviously, we know why Atlanta made the trade. They needed to get rid of his $25.3 million salary.
Yeah, $78 million over 3 more years.
Yeah, so that's one big reason for why they had to make the trade. We're always talking about the CBA and how you want to avoid that, the aggressive penalties of hitting that second apron, right?
Yeah.
What they're not talking about on the CBA is that now with the CBA, you do have to hit a minimum. The minimum is now 90% of the salary cap. The new salary cap is $136 million. So all teams have to have a minimum of $122 million in payroll at the start of the season.
Wow.
So guess where the Jazz are right now before the trade?
Probably around 96 million.
93.7 million. So pretty close.
Yeah.
So even with the 23.5 million of John Collins' contract, that puts them at 119. So they're still 3 million shy of the minimum they're allowed to spend.
Is that before THT opted into his contract?
That's with THT.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, we definitely probably want to
Absolutely
talk about that because THT did opt in yesterday. So that's great. We do have that does address kind of a big question mark we had about who's going to be running point for the Utah Jazz. So glad to see he opted in. for that last year.
I'm excited, especially his production at the end of last season. I mean, he was like 18 points a game, 4 or 5 rebounds, 4 or 5 assists. I mean, he looked really good running the floor for the Jazz at the tail end of this season. If we can get that, I mean, even close to that kind of production out of him through the progression of a whole season, I mean, that puts the Jazz in a really good place because he's a big guard, man. He's 6'5", able-bodied. He's quick. He gets up and down the floor. He's a little turnover prone at some points, but I mean, decision-making, something you can get better at.
It's one of those things where you have a score-first point guard type option. You ask them to be more of a point guard distributor. You're going to see that kind of change. So that's just kind of something to expect. And I would expect to see his numbers drop as far as turnovers this year.
Oh, I would think so.
Just simply with familiarity with the system.
Yeah, and getting used to guys, moving into certain positions and knowing where guys are going to be. Just getting a feel for the team is going to help him a ton.
Yeah, but if you really think about it, there are probably about 5 or 6. See, this is another reason why I think the NBA is a little scripted. This comes out the year, like exactly after the Spurs get Victor Wembanyama. They were one of the worst. Their salary was the lowest in the NBA last year.
Right.
So the fact that now they have Victor Wembanyama, now they have to make up, an extra $30 million just to hit the minimum 2 before.
So they got to go find some big dollar player to pay a bunch of their guys a bunch of money.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. So you're going to see a team like the Spurs go from tanking to get the number 1 draft pick to now they're obligated to spend another additional 35 million on a player to get to the minimum. And like, oh shucks, now we got to go get a competitor. Now we're competing again. It's kind
of pretty tough, man. That's kind of crazy, actually.
It's unfortunate that it happened that way, but that's kind of all played right into the Spurs' hands.
They're like, yeah, this is perfect. This is exactly how we needed it to be.
Yeah, the CBA penalized teams like Golden State and encouraged, teams like San Antonio to do exactly what they did. So, so if he opts into his contract, then the Jazz are steady. So we set the Jazz are at where they need to be. But let's say he opts out, the Jazz have at least $3 million they have to pay in order to hit the minimum to hit 90% of the salary cap.
Yeah, I think they still got a couple roster spots to fill anyway. So I think with some minimum contracts, they should be in okay shape, especially if he does opt out. I love Jordan Clarkson. I think he's a fantastic player, and he is probably one of the most electric players in the NBA to watch.
Yep.
As far as just getting a bucket whenever you need one, and there's nothing anybody can do to stop you. That's Jordan Clarkson. That's your guy. But he's got some stuff to be desired on defense. And I think this team is going to need to swing more towards a defensive team to be super successful next year. Does he fit that kind of DNA? That's kind of the question.
I like it.
Yeah. And if you guys like it, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
That's right. Let's go ahead and talk lineup. What would you like to say on that?
Yeah. So, I think you're, it's kind of cool to think you're like your potential starting 5 as of now, obviously no trades as of today.
Right.
You're looking Talon Horton-Tucker, Ochai Agbaji, probably starting at the 2. He's defensive minded. He's quick. He shoots the 3 ball really well. John Collins and Lauri Markkanen, however you want to plug and play those in the 3 and 4. And then Walker Kessler at 5, which actually leaves you pretty decent bench depth with Colin Sexton and Keontae George. You got Chris Dunn. And as you go a little bit further, you got like Simone Pontecheco, Kelly Olynyk. You know what I mean? So like, it's actually a pretty decent like second unit of guys to come in and continue some offensive production, some good up and down the floor, keeping the ball moving. All of a sudden the Jazz look like a super exciting basketball team to watch.
Because I know the Jazz do favor Colin Sexton in that 6-man role.
Yeah.
So, this kind of does throw a wrench into things. I think before this trade, when they drafted Taylor Hendricks, they were probably thinking that he was going to get a little bit more minutes now than he was. They were probably thinking about 15, 20 minutes. I think this drops us down to 10 to 15 minutes per game, potentially, at that power forward position, because that's really where he's going to excel at. So I don't know. What do you think? What kind of impact do you think this has on the rookies with THT opting in?
I think it's definitely going to take some minutes from them, but it's all going to be on how their preseason goes. You know what I mean? Like, how productive are they going to be when they're on a floor with 9 other NBA players? College is just such a much different game. We didn't get any guys from a European league or, one of these OT elites or, G League Ignite, where you're playing an NBA caliber player almost night in, night out. These guys were in college.
Right.
The skill level in a college game is just going to be much different. The speed's much different. And if these guys can come in and adjust, I think they're going to have a chance to earn some minutes for sure. I don't think these roster spots are locked in, obviously, because I'm not a coach, but I just, that's kind of front look talent wise. That's where you would think everybody would be. But I think if Keontae George comes out and shines and he puts up 40 minutes a game, I think he's got a chance to play 10 or 15 minutes a night. you know, and really be swapping out with Talon Horton Tucker, like, because he's that good of a scorer, he's that good of a ball handler, and he's that good of a facilitator. I think it could be super interesting, and hopefully this really drives these players to be more competitive, and, you know, we get the best of all these guys right away, so this Jazz team can be competitive and we can get some good basketball.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. You know, I don't really know how much this really does affect how they were planning on playing the rookies. I think they basically stacked these rookies up saying, like, worst case scenario, we got the best talent at the positions we needed to fill.
We got a bunch of talent.
So if Jordan Clarkson doesn't resign, if THT walks, we have a bunch of young talent that we could throw out there and hope for the best. Yeah, not only Danny Ainge, but Justin Zanuck, I think they both deserve a pat on the back or a bonus or early vacation or something. For
what they got a lot of work to do, man. We got to get this team up and rolling.
Yeah. Well, there's not much moves left. I mean, you know, there's still a little bit of room. You know, we still have, like you said, some roster spots to fill. But as far as, like, you know, the necessity, you know, I think they got pretty much everything they needed covered.
Yeah. The main portion of this roster is pretty much filled out at this point. I do suspect that you see him make one more move for a floor general type player. Just looking at, you know, Bleacher Report, ESPN, like, there's always some, who's the top free agent for your team. You know, Trey Jones is mentioned from the San Antonio Spurs. Somebody like that is not going to be a high volume scorer, but is not turnover prone, going to make good decisions on the floor, and can really just facilitate the ball to, I mean, you've got multiple scorers on multiple levels at this point now.
Right.
So that's going to be super important for the Jazz to get somebody that can just get the ball up the floor and make good decisions. And worst case scenario, hopefully THT pans out to exactly what I think he can actually be.
No, I mean, he did come in a high draft, probably was a high draft pick, didn't really pan on his first couple of years. But I think that's never really on the player. I think that's more on the situation you're drafted into.
Well, yeah, and he was drafted into the LA Lakers with LeBron James.
Yeah, which is not something he wants, because, like,
why would anybody want to play with LeBron James?
I know rookies don't, because he's wanting to trade them for veterans.
Yeah, I need a guy that's been in the league 26 years and can barely move.
Yeah, because that's actually, he's not wrong. That is who wins titles, but
in the bubble.
Not only, in the bubble, but
in the bubble. Who won the title this year? And how many 86-year-old veterans did they have?
Boston's ring was won by vets.
That was years ago, man. The NBA is different now.
Spurs, all their rings were won by vets. Golden State's.
Yeah, no, okay, I see. You're not saying super old guys. You're just saying more seasoned players than
like your John Morants don't win titles.
No, not at 3-4 years in the league. It's unlikely.
Yeah. Your John Morants, your Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think is the exception.
Right.
But he got a ring within the first like 5 years of being in the league.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's go ahead and pivot. Let's go ahead and move on and start to talk about a little bit about Major League Baseball, shall we?
Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and jump into that. So first, let's go ahead and talk about what we talked about last week. Let's go ahead and recap that a little bit. We talked about the hottest team in baseball being the Cincinnati Reds. And how the Cincinnati Reds and the Atlanta Braves were going into a series, a head-to-head series.
Yeah.
And whoever came out of that, only one's going to come out ahead on that. Well, the Reds won the first game.
Cincinnati gets game one.
Cincinnati
down 0-4, makes a dramatic comeback and wins game one of the series.
Yes, and Ellie De La Cruz hits for the cycle in that game.
Dude, that game was... I actually watched a bunch of highlights of that game.
Yeah.
Some of his hits were insane. When he hit that ball knowing he needed a triple, it was a double for sure.
Yeah.
But everyone in the stadium knew he's going to three.
Yeah, he's going to three. You know how hard it is to get a triple when you're trying to get a triple? Actually, getting triples in baseball is hard enough. Most players don't get more than 2 or 3 a season.
Right.
If they're lucky. But when you're at, like, this is my last at bat, I have to get a triple here, and you just manifest that, that's just fantastic. But then the Braves did go on to win the series. They won the next 2 gaams. So,
go Braves.
So the Braves did end up coming up. So they are now the hottest team in Major League Baseball in their last 10. They are on a 5-game winning streak. They're on 9-1 in their last 10. Not bad.
That's pretty impressive.
The Reds are still in first place in their division, a half game ahead of the Milwaukee Brewers. Braves, again, leading the NL East, and they also did just sweep the AL leading Minnesota Twin.
It's crazy that we're talking about the Cincinnati Reds being one of the hottest teams in baseball.
So let's go ahead and tip our caps there to the Atlanta Braves for now being the hottest team in the MLB.
Nice.
Power rankings came out on Monday, and they're first in the power rankings. So
Pretty impressive. That's a nice switch.
That is a very nice switch. Yeah. So good job, Braves, and keep it going. Let's go ahead and talk about something that came out actually a few days ago. I'm surprised it's not a bigger deal and not a lot more people are talking about it. And it involves the MLB commissioner. In the interview with The Athletic, Rob Manfred states that he actually regrets giving the players immunity during the cheating scandal of 2017 when they won the World Series. What's your take on that? What do you think about the commissioner, Rob Manfred, regretting his decision to not punish players?
I think this is one of those things that it shows that being a commissioner, you are totally just a scapegoat for all the bad things that happen in any situation. When you make a decision to not punish players, you better be ready to deal with all the aftermath.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you to the point where, it's kind of one of those situations where, hindsight's 2020. Looking back on it, realizing that, okay, I need to know how deep this goes. The quickest way I'm going to get testimony from these players and actually have them tell me honestly what's happening is if I give them immunity.
Okay.
So that way I can see how deep this goes, how many players are cheating this badly. And yeah, I can hear you already in the comments, Astros fans. Oh, everybody was cheating. Let's just clear this up. Nobody was doing what the Astros were doing. Using cameras to relay signs in real time by banging on trash cans. It's a whole new level of cheating. It's one thing to have a runner on second base and using the film room to be able to analyze the signs. So when you're at second base, you're going to see what the signs are and then somehow relay
get
that
an early jump or something, or
be able to tell the batter, this is going up, this is going down, relaying it to batter live. That's just gamesmanship. To do what the Astros did was just cheating beyond all egregiousness. And both the Yankees and the Red Sox got popped for using Apple Watches from the bullpen and having a buzz. I don't know how you're telling the batter that because they're not wearing an Apple Watch while they're on the field. They're not like covering an Apple Watch. Maybe it's on their ankle.
Yeah.
I don't know how that helps, but you're not giving instant feedback to tell the batter, hey, this is a fastball. Hey, this is an off-speed pitch.
Yeah.
So anyway, to make sure that kind of cheating wasn't widespread, he had to do something and he had to squash it quick. So I don't agree with the immunity of the players, but I do understand why he did it. Because he needed to see how bad it was. If it was a league-wide scandal like the steroid scandal or any of that stuff, or like the sticky stuff, which came later, I can understand why he did it. But I actually appreciate that he comes back and circles back and says, yeah, looking back, probably not my best decision. Because honestly, these guys, nothing happened to them. They got their World Series ring.
Yeah, and life just went on, right?
Yeah, that's the worst part is they probably didn't even have to do it. The Astros were just that good of a team. They didn't need to cheat. And this year proved it. They won the World Series last year. So,
right.
Good on them for doing it the right way. So, but yeah, it's just nice. It's kind of refreshing for a commissioner to come out and actually admit he made a mistake. Admit that probably not my best decision.
Yeah, so, that's true. That's true because most commissioners don't do that. They're just going to roll with their decisions and take whatever heat they get either way.
I don't really agree with Rob Manfred most times on what he's deciding to do. But this I can tip my cap and say, hey, man, good on you for willing to admit when you
might actually got it right.
Yeah. So, yeah, quite cool. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about a quick story in the NFL. So we have some NFL updates. Did you hear about this story about the Hard Knocks on HBO?
Yeah. So, I read the article about the NFL and, they've selected the team to be on the show this year. It's going to be the New York Jets. Obviously, with their addition with Aaron Rodgers and a couple new receivers, this could be a super fun episode of Hard Knocks for people that are fans. But the fans themselves of the New York Jets are not a huge fan of this.
No, and not only is that, it's not the team isn't either. If you look at all the potential teams, the qualifiers were one, they couldn't be featured on the team on the show in the last 10 years. They couldn't have been a playoff team in the previous season. And there's a few other qualifiers, so there's really like a handful of teams that actually could have been eligible to be the Hard Knocks team, and one of them just happens to be the Jets. You got the Jets, you got, I believe, the 49ers, the Panthers, and some other teams. Now, if you are HBO and you want your team to be successful, which team are you going to kind of force their hand?
Get Aaron Rodgers in front of that camera.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's not exactly what you want when you got a team full of young talent that's surrounded by, because they went the opposite way. Normally on this show, we talk about how most teams are kind of building veteran talent around quarterback that has on their rookie scale contract, right?
Yeah.
So they can kind of take advantage of that title of that Super Bowl window. The Jets are doing the exact opposite way. They have a ton of young talent on their team that they're surrounding with veteran
quarterback
who only has 1 or 2 seasons in him, and who knows what Zach Wilson's going to be after a couple of years of development underneath Aaron Rodgers. So we'll see what happens there. But really, the time you don't want to have a camera in, I mean, most NFL teams have a camera in their face every single game anyway.
Yeah.
But to have them at your dinner table, to be involved in all your business and every on and off the field issue, this spells trouble for the Jets fans if they're being forced to do this. Now they can decline it, but the NFL can force them if they want to.
Yeah, so, I mean, the NFL owns all of them at the end of the day, and they're just trying to make revenue off this HBO series.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not supposed to be for teams that are even like really in a position to be contending.
Yes.
And because of all the changes to the Jets roster, all of a sudden they like appear to be somewhat of a contending team.
Yeah. So they have an argument for why they shouldn't be on the show, because they could easily be a playoff team.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, obviously the 2 most popular things on television right now is reality TV and the NFL. Hard Knocks.
Smash them together and you got straight fire.
Yeah, so I can understand that. I can understand why the NFL and why HBO wants it to be the Jets. I can also understand why the Jets and the Jet fans do not want that.
Yeah.
I mean, just Aaron Rodgers' normal rhetoric and his thumb is enough to cause distraction for a team. Do you really want this with a young team that's trying to gel? I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, if I'm a Jets fan, I'm like, absolutely not.
Yes.
Keep those cameras out of our training camp, out of our locker rooms, out of our cafeterias. Let us get some momentum. Let us move through this. But like you said, they might not even have a choice.
Yeah. So we'll see how that one shapes out. So
yeah, should be a good one.
Yeah,
I'm going to tell you, if it does happen, I will actually probably get HBO and tune on in to watch this just disaster unfold.
Absolutely. I have HBO. I've never watched a single episode of Hard Knocks. I just can't be interested. When people try to take sports and make a reality TV show out of it, I mean, everybody's big into the F1 and now the one round surrounding golf where all the PGA players. I don't know what that one's called.
The Netflix series.
The Netflix one, yeah.
Yeah, I actually started watching that one, but I haven't finished it yet.
Yeah, I don't want to know. Like, I'm watching sports to watch the sports. I don't need to know the drama behind it.
Right.
I'll say I might even have to watch that. If it's Aaron Rodgers, that's going to be interesting. I saw him on a video.
Let us know in the comments if you want us to give you some reactions to the Hard Knocks videos.
Yeah, we'll live stream to watching it.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of fun. Once again, folks, if you're watching this on YouTube, keep in mind the full episode will be underneath our playlist under podcasts. Also is available on audio wherever you find your podcasts.
And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, share, subscribe, keep commenting. We love interacting with you guys. We appreciate it. They've been awesome the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Let me just take a second to say to our followers, first of all, welcome. You guys have doubled our subscriber count in less than a week.
It's been crazy. It's been crazy.
Appreciate it. And we really appreciate all the engagements in the comments. It's been fun to interact with you guys. Keep them coming. It's been great. And if we haven't gotten to your comment yet, we're going to try and make sure we respond to every single one of them. So much appreciated. Once again, folks, my name is Darren. That is AJ. And this has been the DNA Sports Recap.
Till next time.